Welcome to another episode of the International Trumpet Guild podcast. For more information or to become a member, please visit trumpetguild.org.
Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the first season of the International Trumpet Guild podcast. My name is Rachel Samayoa, and I'm on the board of directors. It is my honor to welcome Jennifer Oliverio today. Here's a little bit about Jennifer. Dr. Oliverio is a celebrated cornet and flugelhorn player who holds the positions of principal cornet with the Fountain City Brass Band and flugelhorn with the Athena Brass Band. Jen is currently the assistant professor of music and trumpet at Missouri Western State University and one of the directors for the Fountain City Youth Brass Academy. I recently had the opportunity to play in Athena Brass Band with Jennifer in Manchester, England, and she played an incredible flugelhorn solo. I'm a big fan of your playing. Jen, can you tell us, how did your personal journey with music begin?
I've always loved music. I've always felt very connected to music as an outlet for creativity. My family has this really funny story where I was 2 years old and we were all camping and I literally wouldn't stop singing the ABC song. And so I think from then it's always been something that I've felt very connected to. I started playing the trumpet in fourth grade, like many people do. And for me, it's kind of been an inevitable part of my trajectory as a person. I've always wanted to be in the music community and to have it be a pretty serious part of my professional output.
Fantastic. As you were beginning your musical journey, did you have any mentors that shaped your approach as a player?
Absolutely. I think this is the case for anybody that's gotten to a certain place in their playing where there are people that are kind of these inevitable forces that help us and they support you. I think every teacher has left me with something that I keep to this day. I think some of the most impactful and meaningful mentorships and relationships that I've had, my undergraduate professor is Frank Campos, and his teaching style, his approach to playing, the ease with which he kind of fluctuates between styles and genres has always been an incredible influence for me. He's also someone that's been deeply embedded in the community of ITG for a long time. So for sure, the experiences with Frank. When I was in high school, actually, I know that it's the 50th anniversary of ITG and the conference and all of that stuff. And for me, it's very much a homecoming experience because I grew up about 20 minutes away from Rochester. So I studied with teachers in that area, and it'll be a wonderful experience to come back and visit and reconnect with all of them. And then my doctoral instructor, Keith Benjamin, was also really helpful for lightening the experience of being in the music community for me. He's a brilliant teacher and a really relatable human being. And I think that both, like all of those experiences kind of combined together have been really meaningful for me.
Two great individuals for sure.
Yeah.
But some of your projects, I think something that we're both passionate about is brass banding. Mm-hmm. How did you get into brass bands?
Unintentionally. When I moved to Kansas City in 2013, I was starting my doctorate, and my husband, who's also a trumpet player, was moving with me, and he was not starting a degree program. So he was looking for performance outlets in the Kansas City area. And I think this is the last time that Fountain City had an open audition was in 2013. But he auditioned for Fountain City, and I went with him to the audition, and I met some of the people in the band, and on their next competition cycle, they were going to the U.S. Open Brass Band Championships, which was hosted at the time. I think it was St. Charles, Illinois. And they needed someone to play bottom third cornet. And I was like, I could probably handle that. I do not own a cornet, but I've got a lot of spirit. And they gave me a cornet to borrow. I did not realize that it had an E-flat soprano mouthpiece in it. So I was trying to play the bottom third cornet parts on a Bass and Prestige with a soprano mouthpiece. And the rest is history. Luckily, they kept me around. They didn't mind my horribly out of tune pitches of the low register. And I've been in the band since then, so for 13 years or so now.
Yeah, and you've won many championships with the group as well.
Yeah.
With playing the cornet, have you used a different approach to your practice performing of the cornet in comparison to the trumpet?
Yeah, actually, I think the hardest thing for me is transitioning between both instruments. For me, playing the trumpet is like a very fast presence of air when I'm playing it. The cornet for me is a little bit more of an intimate setting, a little bit more uh, round and shimmering sound, I suppose. So I do approach each instrument a little bit differently. I equate it to like if you get in your car and it's got different settings for different people. Um, you just kind of have to predict the setting that you're going into. So, like my cornet setting versus my trumpet setting. I found that going fluidly between those instruments in my warm ups and my fundamentals has been a really big help for me so that I'm able to do that navigation between different instruments. Most of the recitals that I do, I fluctuate pretty significantly between instruments as I go, like from one piece to the other on the program. So it's been kind of an integral part of my experience in doing recitals and stuff like that.
Fantastic. You're an amazing, an amazing sound on flugelhorn. Do you have any tips you can give to playing the flugelhorn?
Yes. You have to want to sound like a flugelhorn player when you play the flugelhorn. I think sometimes people approach it and they have this kind of auditory expectation that they're going to sound like a trumpet player, or they want to sound like a similar player between their trumpet playing and their flugelhorn playing. And I think that that usually yields a sound that's a little bit too bright. It sounds a little forced, or it sounds not patient enough for the flugelhorn. So I would say going into it with kind of this expectation of flugelhorn sound, there are some really lovely flugelhorn players out there to listen to as references. So I highly recommend just like listening, recording yourself, kind of reflecting back and seeing how you can round out the edges of your sound when you approach that instrument.
Fantastic. Yeah. Something that you've been doing recently is composing. How did you get into that?
I never intended to compose. So it's been a really neat side quest for me. I Thanksgiving, I think it was in 2024, like a year and a half ago at this point. I got really sick. I had like an upper respiratory infection, and I was like, nothing sounds worse than playing the trumpet in this moment when I can barely breathe. So I'd like to do something that feels creative, but is not the trumpet. So I started writing etudes, and I've kind of expanded out from there. And it's been such a neat way to challenge my musicianship. I listen with more intensity. I write with more creativity. I practice and I play with more intention, and it's been kind of a blessing in my playing and my professional work to have that as an outlet.
Yeah, and I see that you are selling some pieces on your website. Is that correct?
Yeah, you can find them on my website. They're also published through Just a Theory Press. So I have it's a lot of trumpet stuff, to be honest, but some trumpet ensemble stuff, some trumpet and piano works, chamber music like brass quintets. I recently had a trombone ensemble piece premiered, which was very cool. Brass band piece. I'm trying to expand more into writing for brass band, and so that's been kind of a fun venture. But all of that, when it's no longer in exclusivity with whoever's commissioned it, is available on Just a Theory Press.
Okay. I've noticed you have a new duo, or maybe it's kind of an old duo, but it's called Mother Chaos Duo. How did that come about?
Well, Christy and I have been playing together for years. We met, it's a very funny origin story, I think. When I auditioned for my master's degree at the University of Arkansas, one of the audition requirements was like a half recital. That was kind of a public recital. And Christy was the collaborative pianist that I was assigned to. And I grew up in New York, and my audition was in March, and there happened to be a truly dreadful snowstorm that day. So I was super delayed. I ended up on campus at like midnight. And so she had been sleeping backstage, and she comes out when I walk in, and she's like, let's do this. And I was very intimidated. And so that was our first meeting. And when people asked her, they were like, what is Jen like? You know, what was it like to work with her? Do you think that she'll come here? Christy was like, I think I'm going to reserve my judgment until we both have had some sleep. So that was our first experience together. We've played, oh gosh, tens, hundreds of recitals together at this point. She's been an amazing resource and support and musical colleague. Especially recently, she's been kind of collaborative in the composition process. And so she tells me if I would get in composer trouble for the things that I write by pianists, and it helps me avoid embarrassment. And she'll actually be performing with me at the ITG conference in May. So I'm super excited for that. We are hoping to complete a recording project over the summer. I wrote a trumpet sonata for us, and so that's going to premiere. It's about Medusa and Medusa's life. And we're super excited and really looking forward to sharing some of those upcoming projects.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question. What other projects do you have coming up? But you have that. And I know you stay busy.
Yeah, that's for sure. Definitely some of the Mother Chaos stuff. We are doing a recital in March where we'll premiere the trumpet sonata. And then over the summer, the big project that we're working on, or that I'm working on, is 5 new works for chamber ensembles, all of it self-composed. And we're going to record all of the pieces with different chamber groups.
I noticed you're doing a brass trio in August. It's coming out. Is that one of them as well?
I have a brass trio that I've completed. It's titled Facets. I wrote it for the Trilogy Brass Trio. And it's kind of cute because it's like 3 little movements, and each movement is about a gemstone, and the qualities of that gemstone are reflective of the relationships I've had with the women in that ensemble. So it's based off of onyx, jasper, and sunstone, and each of those represent strength, nurturing, and joy.
Very cool. I want to get into your teaching. When you first begin working with a student, what do you prioritize first? Is it sound, technique, musical thinking, and why? Why do you choose that?
I think for me, the first experience that I have with a student is very much an assessment of all of those qualities. So we'll go through a general rundown of their fundamentals. How is their facility on the instrument, their comfort, their sound, their flexibility, all of those different things, and seeing where their strengths lie and where some of their opportunities for growth might lie, and how I can, as an instructor, address those things. With the students that I work at an open enrollment institution, which is at Missouri Western. It's kind of a blessing in disguise because sometimes there's a lot of challenges that are associated with working at an institution like that, but also the fact that I get to work with a lot of students that have never had private instruction. They're an open book, and there's so much room for like pretty impressive strides to be made in their playing. And so I would say like my initial work with students is an assessment of what we're working with, and then after that, trying to figure out what my prescription for them might be. So if they're wanting to work on upper register playing, well, these are some of the exercises, this is some of the repertoire, these are some of the approaches that I might integrate into my playing to make it more comfortable in the upper register. If they're wanting to work on flexibility, these are some of the things that I think that you can probably work on, or these are some of the roadblocks that you might be hitting in your general trumpet playing.
Yeah, fantastic. I think I've already asked you this question, but what have been your most influential teachers or pedagogical inspirations? It could be a person, a book, recordings, or an idea.
There have been a number of things that I feel very inspired by. I feel very connected to originality in people's sounds and their approaches. And so if there's an endeavor that someone takes on that feels like it's unapologetically their musical thumbprint, I'm very drawn to that. That's one of the reasons why Mother Chaos is such an important outlet for my professional career, because it sometimes is weird, but it is special. And so anytime that I can hear, for me, one of the most meaningful performances that I've attended, I really enjoyed the 2022 ITG in San Antonio, and I got COVID and couldn't attend anything except the last day. And so I went to the Ole Edvard Antonsen recital, and I was blown away by just like the newness and the differentness of his recital. I just thought it was such a beautiful performance. Every piece had some really meaningful moments and some real intent behind the performance. And so that was probably one of the big inspirations for me. As a brass bander, every time I go over to the UK, I feel very inspired by the musicians that are over there. So some of my favorite players to listen to, Tom Hutchinson or Helen Williams, or any of the principal cornets and flugelhorn players that I get to interface with while I'm over there.
Okay, I think we're back now. So, we were talking about the brass musicians in the UK and how outstanding they are. We just had Septura come and give a performance in the area, and I just couldn't believe how incredible they sounded. And you're right, every time I hear somebody from the UK, I work with David Charles, it's just kind of like upbringing, like it's such a high level.
Absolutely. I feel very drawn to the sound concept over there. So performers like Phil Cobb, like that, I just really, really enjoy listening to their performance and their approach to the horn.
Truly inspiring. I try to get my students to listen to more of them as well. Going back to some students, what are some common challenges do you see students face, and how do you help them work through those? Can you maybe have an example?
Yeah, I think most of my students, when they come in, they try way too hard to play the trumpet. Like they try to force the trumpet into playing the notes that they want. And I found that the more and you have to be engaged, obviously, in what you're doing physically in order to play. But the more relaxed you are while you're, engaging and playing, the more comfortable everything is. So I think a lot of that aligns closely with if anyone does yoga or, that body awareness and that comfort and navigating playing in that way can be really, really helpful. So I would say that's probably one of the number one things, is that a lot of young students think they have to really try hard, but not in the way that they actually should to play the instrument. I would say another kind of pitfall for a lot of students is that they don't know how to practice. I think for my students in particular, when they come into the program, because a lot of them don't have private lessons prior, figuring out how to navigate the practicing experience so that it's effective and time savvy and kind of an economical practice. Otherwise, you can waste a lot of time in the practice room not actually getting better.
Right. I agree with all those. And I always think that students have two things that they don't have any patience for. They want it yesterday. And that's range and multiple articulation, double or triple tone. They just think there's a trick once you get it.
No, and it's funny because the students, when they come in and work on those things, you see the exact same problems every time that they come in and try to rush the process for any of those things. Like for articulations, you mentioned that they just sound like chickens when they rush that process. It's all very short. It's very far back in their mouth. And so there's like no true control over that quality of their playing. So, or they can only multiple tongue at one speed. They're like, I'm so fast at this. I can do it at 160. But they could not do it at 162, like 162 or 150, or, there's just like a set tempo that they could do it. So
can I ask you a question?
Sure.
So, the Arbin book, we call it the Trumpet Bible.
Yeah.
The triple tongue section is first, and then it's double tongue. And there's like a lot in the triple tongue, hardly anything for double tongue. But I would say most people, I myself, start double tongue first. Did you do double or triple tongue first?
I am a very special case in this situation. So I, growing up, had a very, very fast single tongue, and there's two things you should know about me. One, I had a very fast single tongue, and two, I was incredibly stubborn. So I refused to learn how to triple tongue until I got, or double tongue really, until I got into my undergrad. And I have this vivid memory of my teacher, Frank, pulling out his binders of music and going, these are all the solos you can't play because you won't learn how to triple or double tongue. And I remember like the humbling moment where I was like, oh, that is a substantial chunk of the repertoire. So I learned very late in the game, and I believe it was double tonguing first, and then I worked my way into triple tonguing. I know that this is kind of like a contentious thing where a lot of people will learn triple tonguing first because the proportion of K syllable to T syllable is less, but I also feel like it can be kind of a clunky articulative pattern, and so I usually, when I'm working on it with students, will do double tonguing first and then do triple tonguing after.
I think most people do that, but that would be a good research topic
Yeah.
for a DMAer out
Yeah.
there to be listening right now.
Yeah, looking at you, DMA students.
So you could play concert etude, single tongue.
At one point in time, yes. When I was a sophomore in high school, I did the Artunian single tongued, and I don't recommend it. I do not recommend it, but it was possible at one point in my life.
Okay. So are there any under-recognized recordings, books, composers, or performers you think deserve more attention?
Some of my favorite playing right now is listening to Ashley Hall play, because I just think her approach to the instrument is, she's got such fluidity and beauty to her sound. So she will always be one of my most recommended players for people to listen to. I think there's some really young, brilliant musicians out there right now. The flugelhorn player with the Black Dyke Band, Phoebe Mallinson, she's a beautiful player. Really, really like light, effervescent, beautiful sound. And she's in her undergrad at the Royal Northern. And so she would definitely be someone that I would encourage people to check out as well. As far as like books and resources, Lucy Pankhurst has a lot of exercises and small etudes and duets that I use with my students a lot. Your Dueling Fundamentals book is another one that I use all the time with my students. I think it's so great, one, because I don't feel like I'm cold all the time in lessons, and two, because they get that constant auditory reminder of like, this is what we should sound like, these are the things we should be focusing on in our playing. You know, if everything is working the way that it should be, this is what this exercise should sound like, regardless of the key, regardless of the range, all of those things. So for sure, your Dueling Fundamentals book and Lucy's book that has kind of fundamentals for all brass instruments and etudes and stuff like that.
Well, thank you so much. When did you first become aware of the International Trumpet Guild?
Because my undergraduate trumpet professor was Frank Campos. He was a column editor at the time, and so I knew that he was writing columns for the journal, and sometimes he would talk about how he was addressing those like certain pedagogical concepts. He wrote a book around the time that I was in my undergrad as well, and a lot of the articles that he wrote for the ITG journal were kind of the impetus for some of the chapters of the book. And so that was my first experience learning about the ITG as a whole, was through him. And then I think I gained more of a connection with it when I was in my master's degree. I applied for a number of the conference scholarships and things like that, so I was able to attend the conference. When you're in your master's or your undergrad or your doctorate, being able to afford the conferences is sometimes a challenge. And so I know, like, right now there's so many great initiatives to help make it a more affordable, accessible opportunity for people, like volunteering for the conference, some of the preludes and stuff like that, so you can apply for funding through your university. Those are great options. I don't think all of those existed when I was a much younger player, and so yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Frank Cappos's book, I love it. It's called Trumpet Techniques, I believe.
Yep.
And it's the first time I read about the Valsalva maneuver.
Same. Yeah, I had no idea what it was, and I was like, oh, I've definitely encountered people that are working through and navigating their experiences with that. Yeah, it's really fascinating, and it's nice to put kind of a title to what's happening and like have a concrete description for what's going on in your playing. And it's been a valuable tool. I've had a bunch of students that have been working through kind of response things with the Valsalva maneuver, and his book's been a great resource for them.
I think it would be a great book for anyone that does drum corps to do, because there's no way for you not to have tension while marching at 200 beats per minute. It's just It's hard to
Yeah,
come back from that.
absolutely.
What has ITG meant to you as a professional artist?
The biggest thing I would say for me is that it is a modality for connection. So being able to connect with other performers or other students or other professors. There are people in the International Trumpet Guild that are at every different kind of like season of their career, or they're, if they're a hobbyist, they're in every season of their relationship with music and with the trumpet. And so for me, it's a means for connection. It's also a chance for me to embrace my inner nerd and not feel any judgment. So like being able to go to, there are presentations I would never have imagined being a thing, and I get to learn about someone else's, favorite thing about the trumpet. So that's one of the things I really enjoy. I also really enjoy the process of researching and finding new literature, premiering and doing performances of new works, particularly by marginalized and underrepresented composers. And so I feel like ITG has done a really good job of supporting that in some of their recitals and some of their new works performances in the last couple of years.
Oh, great answers, all of those.
Thanks.
Can you you have a little recital coming up this
Yeah.
summer in Eastman, which I think you're an alum, is that correct?
I'm not. I grew up there and I went through the community music school, so I studied with some of the teachers there. But I was going through some old videos the other day, and there's a video of me performing as a senior in Kilbourne Hall, the Haydn Trumpet Concerto. And it was the day of my prom, and so I have like the fanciest prom hairdo ever, and I look absolutely mortified to be there. I'm so scared. Christy and I were watching the video together. Patrick had sent it to me, and I look like I'm gonna cry the whole time. And so I'm hoping to have a better experience than that this time around.
I bet you will.
Yeah.
What are you going to play at your recital?
I have two pieces that I'm going to perform. The first one is The Eagle by Liz Lane. We were speaking about kind of English composers and people that come into the musical community with a background in brass banding. And Liz Lane is one example of a composer with that background. So she composed this piece for cornet and piano. I think it's the hardest solo work I've ever played. But it's beautiful. And so that is a challenge because you can tell if I hit the wrong notes. So it's really stunning. It's based off of the Vidor organ toccata. So in the cornet part. So
that's single tongue.
Yeah, there it is. Everyone got to hear it. It's like a 6-minute work, and it had limited exposure with its performances, and so I'm really excited to perform it at the ITG conference. And then, was it 2 years ago, I think, at the National Trumpet Competition, I was fortunate enough to premiere the trumpet rendition of Catherine McMichael's Bicol Journey. It's a 4-minute work that was originally written for like the flute family of instruments. And so I will be playing it with the trumpet family of instruments, mostly conical instruments, if I'm being truthful. The final movement might be on C trumpet, but everything else on the recital is going to be a cornet or a flugelhorn.
So still to be decided.
TBD, yeah, for sure. But that piece, she writes, when she composes, she writes a lot about influences from nature. And so it's about Lake Baikal and preserving that location. And it's so beautiful. When I premiered it, I played it with her because she's a pianist. And it's really, really stunning. One of the movements is based off of a recording that she found that had no idea on it. It was like a Siberian baritone, I think is how she referred to the recording. And it sounds like The Godfather, but for trumpet a little bit, where it's like very intense, very operatic kind of style to the writing. There's a lot of like trills and a lot of timbral things that I get to dig into on that piece. And so I'm really, really looking forward to being able to share that.
You do a lot of premieres. The one you did in Manchester, England, was amazing. It's gorgeous. Can you tell us a little bit about that one? I know it's not ITG, but
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
a full premiere.
During the pandemic, I felt very purposeless. And so I was trying to find something that felt like I was connecting with people, but didn't necessarily have to be a live performance because that was kind of not happening very much at the time. And so there's a Facebook group for female trans non-binary musicians, and people were introducing themselves on some of these posts, and Andrea introduced herself and was like, oh, I'm originally from South Africa. I live in Germany. I'm a euphonium player. I do brass band stuff and I compose. And I was like, I'm going to ask her to write me a piece. I think I'm going to do that. And so she was one of the first people that I reached out to. And she originally wrote it for flugelhorn and piano. And then when Athena was asked to play at the RNCM festival, I reached out to her and I was like, hey, girly pop, any chance you would be willing to expand that out for brass band and flugelhorn? Because this piece is a bop, and I think it would be a really great setting for that performance. There's so much of an emphasis at the RNCM Festival on new music and diverse composers and expanding the repertoire for brass banding. And so she was amazing. She was willing to expand it out. It's a simple sounding piece, but a very challenging one to actually put together because some of the counting, some of the rhythms are way hipper than I am. So that was definitely one of the challenges. But I really, really enjoyed putting that piece together, and it was such an honor to share kind of her vision of that work.
And you played it amazingly. You really did. And can we give a shout out to Athena Brass Band?
Absolutely. Shout out to Athena.
Athena. I think we played in Midwest together too, right?
Yes, that was so much fun. I had missed it so much, and I didn't realize kind of how much like you feel that loss of not being able to perform with, that a group of people that you really genuinely care about so much. And that performance. And did you play when it was at UNT?
I did not because I was,
Doing
busy.
the thing.
Yeah, and I also got COVID that year, by the way.
Oh, so many people did. My entire little cluster in the brass band, all the people on either side of me got it. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, going back to ITG, do you have a favorite memory?
I have a couple of memories that have stuck with me. One, I remember going to the Grand Rapids ITG. This was a number of years ago.
2012.
And it was very early on in my experiences with ITG. And I remember my mind being blown because there were so many performances that were at such a high level. There were people that I had never heard of in my entire life. There were pieces I had never had any exposure to. And I think that's the case for any ITG conference that I've gone to. There's been so much newness and new exposure that you get from going to something like this that can really kind of rock your socks off. That's how I feel like the National Trumpet Competition, I think, has a similar experience for a lot of students. And then for this, it's been really neat to see some of the more academic presentations and research areas and the new works recitals and things like that.
You also do a column for the journal.
I do. Yeah. I do the cornet column for the ITG Journal. And I would not say that academic writing is where I spend my favorite work, but I do find that it's very meaningful for a couple of reasons. One, I feel like I'm able to share a lot from the perspective of an American trumpet player who has spent her research area in expanding into British brass band cornet playing. So from that perspective, I'm able to talk broadly about some of the techniques and tactics and resources that I've found really beneficial in that transition. I also get the opportunity to interview a lot of my friends and some of the people that I meet during my journey. So I went to the International Brass Band Summer School that was hosted in Swansea, Wales. And I got to interview some of the people from that experience. I took lessons with Richard Marshall and Tom Hutchinson, and then wrote about some of those experiences in the journal. And so it's been really neat to share those experiences with people that might not be able to afford to fly to Swansea, Wales, which was really expensive, or might not have the time or be able to connect with some of those UK-based composers or performers or players. And so it's been kind of an honor to be able to facilitate the column, and also invite guest columns as well. My good friend Matt Vangel, who's the trumpet professor at UMKC, just did a guest article that's about flugelhorn, and he interviews a whole bunch of like the world's greatest flugelhorn players and brass band, and so you get to hear their perspective on there as well. And so that's been a really neat outlet.
I have to admit, this is the first column I read in the journal.
I am honored. I think it's so much fun. It's so different than some of the other trumpety things too. I have really enjoyed talking. There have been a couple ones where I break down and talk about youth bands or repertoire suggestions, or how to listen to championship level test pieces was my most recent article, and I talk about kind of the origins of some of the test pieces that are the giants in brass banding. And so, yeah, it's been a fun endeavor for me.
And Richard Marshall, I think, is probably my favorite cornetist and of the UK genre. I just feel like, I know you're a Tom Hutchinson.
I like them both. I mean, I played for and listened to them both, and their facility is absolutely bananas.
Crazy.
I try really hard. I practice my Clark studies. I can't play what they play. It's crazy.
They never get tired.
No, I envy their endurance too. You have to be really smart about how you're using your energy as a player. They're very economical players.
Definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Here's kind of a tough question. We're asking this of all the guests. Can you tell us about a time you overcame an obstacle in your career, particularly related to self-doubt?
Mm-hmm. For me, I would say it was following my pregnancy with my son. I had my son in August of 2019, and then I auditioned for my first full-time tenure track job 3 months later, and so I played a recital 3 months after having my son, and then we immediately went into a worldwide pandemic, and I moved at the same time. And so it was a challenge to find my voice again, I suppose, both as a person, as a mother, as a creative. It was really difficult to navigate so much change all at the same time, and that's kind of why I hopped with both feet into commissioning some new works, because even if I didn't think I had much to say about some of the standards, I felt like I could really champion some pieces that I felt really passionately about, or I felt excited about. It's like Christmas Day when you get a new piece of music in your email. So I would say probably following the birth of my son was one of the most difficult times for me.
You hit all the what is it? The big three is the big changes is moving,
new job,
and
becoming a parent.
Yeah. My gosh. Wow. But you definitely overcame it, and you're shining for sure.
Thank you.
I recently went through some health issues, and I couldn't play for 6 weeks, and I couldn't really use my tummy, and I'm like, 3 months is a long time, but it's kind of not a long time.
No, it went by way faster than I expected. I played through the entirety of my pregnancy. I stopped taking gigs the last month or so, and then I started playing about a week after he was born, because that was when the application was due for that position. And I was like, I don't know if I'm going to make it to the final round, the campus interviews, but I do know that if I make it to the campus rounds, I have to be in shape to play a recital. So I've got to start now. I've got to start practicing and doing all of these things. And it was a challenge. Most of my practicing was done between 10 and midnight into a practice mute. So when I got there, I was like, oh, I sound pretty good. I haven't heard myself play without a mute in a while. It's very comforting.
What is one piece of advice you would give to someone who wants to pursue a similar path such as yours?
I think The thing that I felt very disillusioned by was that the landscape is constantly changing. So, the advice that I might give you right now about being successful and having a robust and engaging career might be different in a decade, might be different in a couple of years. And so I think being as adaptable and flexible and maintaining and cultivating connections with your peers, so that you feel like you can take on any of the changes that are inevitably going to be a part of the music community.
It's fantastic because the world is changing. Things are, AI is taking over everything.
I know.
And
Crazy.
like graphic designers, do we even need that anymore? I don't. With Canva.
I use Canva all the time. I'm a Canva girly.
Yeah, I kind of use it. I don't think I use an eighth of what it can do, but I use it.
Yeah.
But and your husband's kind of like that too, where he became like this recording engineer person during COVID.
Yeah, he
so
pivoted. He learned off of YouTube how to do recordings.
Wow.
Yeah, he was just like, well, if I can't play my trumpet and I can't make money from doing freelancing and teaching and stuff like that, I need to make money somehow. And I still love music. And so he started with the Fountain City, what were those called? Virtual videos. He started, like, the first Fountain City virtual video was like his kind of first step into doing a lot of the audio and video editing. And then he's expanded out from there. He'll be recording my next recording project over the summer, and he recorded the first solo album that I did, Enigma, as well. So he's really done well for himself, and now he's able to fluctuate between like freelance playing and subbing with orchestras and things like that.
So Enigma kind of won a few prizes, right? Didn't it win the American prize?
It did, yeah. It won the American prize and then was a silver medalist for the Global Music Awards, and then Four Bars Rest nominated it for Album of the Year when it was released.
So incredible playing, and then your husband did all the recording for it and the editing and mastering.
Sure did. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was kind of a wild experience because it was, again, during COVID. And so every time that you reserved a room, you had to have like an air out period. So I recorded that album in 6 hours.
Are you serious?
Yeah. I could only use it for like 2 hours a day. And so I did it in, I think it was either 3 or 4 days, but we needed to be able to air out the room before they had ensemble rehearsals in the space that we had reserved. So we could do an hour of setup, 2 hours of recording, and then an hour of teardown. And we also had to have a babysitter because my son was 1 year old, I think, when we recorded it.
Wow, you've had an incredible career and you've just started. So I look forward to seeing what next incredible thing you do next. But thank you so much for talking to us today. And where can people find you?
I'm on the socials. We have a Mother Chaos page, which is a public page. I have a private Instagram, but feel free to follow Mother Chaos. All of the stuff that trumpet players would actually care about is on there. I'm on Facebook, and then I have a university email address that anyone can reach out to. I'm always happy to connect with people that are passionate about brass banding or new music or composing or anything like that. So feel free to reach out in any of those places.
Well, thanks again, Jen, and I'll see you at ITG this summer.
Sounds good. Looking forward to it.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the International Trumpet Guild podcast. The mission of the International Trumpet Guild is to promote communications among trumpet players around the world and to improve the artistic level of performance, teaching, and literature associated with the trumpet. We hope you will consider becoming a member at trumpetguild.org. For more information about the International Trumpet Guild podcast or to make suggestions for a future episode, please contact podcast@trumpetguild.org.